The boy tied a long rope to the tree. After confirming the rope could support his weight, he took a deep breath and sprinted toward the wall with all his might. This was the prison break method he had figured out. Using Newton's laws of motion, the boy quickly managed to climb the high wall. Yet when he finally scaled the wall and caught sight of the outside world, it was not the sweet taste of freedom that greeted him. Only endless confusion and despair awaited him, because what lay before his eyes was an unfathomably deep cliff. At that moment, Norman finally realized that the elaborate escape plan he had devised earlier was nothing but a joke in the face of this cliff. But Norman only wallowed in dejection for a moment before pulling himself together again. Since his lifespan was down to one day and escape was destined to be impossible, he was willing to sacrifice his own life to pave a new path for his friends. Ever since Norman received the order from his superiors to be shipped out the next day, the children's collective escape plan had come to a grinding halt. And to save Norman's life, Ray and Emma had not stopped thinking for a single second. Ray suggested that Norman could take the tracker disabling device and pretend to escape, then actually lie low in the forest and wait for the right moment. If Norman was worried that this would get Ray shipped out as a replacement, Emma had another brilliant idea. That was to break Ray's leg or arm to delay the shipping time. In short, no matter what it took, Norman had to survive. The lengths those two were willing to go for him filled Norman with immense gratitude and also strengthened his resolve to sacrifice himself completely. So he pretended to agree to their plan of faking an escape, lying low in the forest and secretly scouting beyond the wall. But in reality, he had resolved to treat himself as a disposable tool. And as it turned out, his decision was absolutely correct. The truth about the cliff beyond the wall had to be told to Ray and Emma immediately so they could formulate a new escape plan. At first, upon learning about the cliff outside the wall, Ray and Emma thought Norman's return had been an unavoidable necessity. Little did they know that before leaving, Norman pulled out the unused device. This meant that Norman had never intended to escape in the first place. He knew that even if he just went into hiding, it would more or less jeopardize the overall plan, reducing the chances of all the children escaping successfully. That was the last thing Norman wanted to see, and he had done everything he could today. The rest was now up to Ray and Emma. Emma refused to accept the truth and urged Norman to go into hiding. But now that things had come to this, how could Norman possibly change his mind? With that said, he went back to his room to pack his things. But rather than packing luggage, it would be more accurate to say he was choosing his last belongings. After all, by tonight he would become a meal on the demon's dining table. It no longer mattered what he took with him. If there was one item that Norman truly cherished, it was an ordinary paper cup phone. This tiny paper cup was filled with the warm memories of the three of them. When Norman was little, he had a weak constitution and was often bedridden with illness. Fearing he would infect the other children, the headmistress would always isolate Norman from the rest. But Emma would always find a way to be by his side, simply because she was afraid Norman would feel lonely all by himself. Of course, the headmistress would soon come and take Emma away. Fortunately, Ray came up with a solution. That solution was the paper cup phone. Now back to the present. Norman called Fuyu and Gilda to see him alone. He gave them detailed instructions on how to assist Ray and Emma. After he was gone, once everything was settled, Norman officially set foot on his one-way path to death.